Serious, happily married people of Reddit, what is the number one piece of advice you wish everyone knew when it comes to a successful relationship? Resentment is the single thing that ruins a relationship. Do whatever it takes to avoid it. Honesty and communication are good tools to avoid it. Scrolled through to see if anyone else said resentment. Completely agree. Recognize that your partner is not you. They have a separate brain and self-awareness and perception of the world. They have a whole set of different life experiences, and consequently, a whole different way of seeing, reacting, and understanding. No, they aren't going to do something exactly the way you would do it. No, their first instinct might not be your first instinct. No, they are not you. And you know what? That's why you're with them. Love is an action, not an emotion. There will be times when the warm fuzzies are ubiquitous, and times when they aren't. Show love. Demonstrate it, even when you don't feel it. Life with two humans is inherently complicated, and the feelings are going to eventually come back, if both parties keep working at it. Don't throw away a good marriage because the feelings faded for a time. Someone once told me that lasting love is a choice, not just an emotion. Laugh together. Often, my folks have been together for 40 years, so I asked my mom what their secret was. She said humor. Yes, having a similar type of humor and laughing frequently is a must. Married 26 years. Very happy. 1. Have a shared sense of purpose. Talk about why you live, why you choose to work, why you choose to marry. Talk through these big ideas often. Go back to them. 2. Learn to compromise. Marriage makes both people different. You will lose a bit of who you are at the edges, but if you do it right, you'll be a better person in the end. Marriage isn't about holding on to your essential self. The romantics got this one wrong. 3. Sex is great but it's overemphasized. Have lots of fun sex as a married couple but never think it's why you are married. When it gets boring and utilitarian, don't stress. It'll probably get better eventually. Work it out. Sex is part of the long, loving conversation of marriage. It's not the professional wrestling version of sex you see in P. 4. Don't cheat. Don't drink a ton of booze. Don't do a ton of drugs. Pay your bills on time. Life is for grown-ups. Grow the heck up and get to work. It's worth it when you're old and loved and you managed to help some people out along the way. I really appreciate a lot of what you're saying here. We're in the process of helping each other grow up and it feels wonderful getting that down. Thank you for such great advice. Don't marry someone unless that person makes you a better person. You want someone who brings out your best, not your worst. Be a team. Work together and balance out your strengths and weaknesses. Don't be adversarial. Talk to each other. No one is a mind reader. Talking to everyone else, mother, sibling, friend, about your relationship problems isn't going to solve the problem. Talking your spouse will. Don't let your parents' family treat your soul like crap. Even if your parents despise your soul, they should treat him or her with respect. Stick up for your soul. Be a united front. There are few things that can break down a relationship more quickly than taking sides. Finally, be absolutely sure you are both on the same page when it comes to finances, career, children, etc. Don't think that your soul will come around or that he'll change his mind. If someone says they don't want kids, take that at face value. If she has a career that will necessitate moving every few years, then you need to be okay with that. If you plan to raise your child in a particular faith or church, be sure your spouse is on board with that before the baby arrives. Do a full financial disclosure before getting married or moving in together. I know too many folks who were slapped upside the head by a spouse who had tens of thousands of dollars of CC debt or huge student loans that they knew nothing about until after the wedding. Gospel. Thank you. Do things for your soul without an expectation to be repaid. Learn to love to have them happy. From my experience, they will do the same in return. I heard somewhere that each side has to do 70% in a relationship. Build your partner up and help them be the best version of themselves. Make sure you are with someone who will do the same. As a married person who does this but doesn't get it back, I agree. I'm basically on the brink of divorce right now because of this. I first said this as a joke but quickly realized that there is a lot of truth in this statement. The secret to a happy marriage is low expectations. Keep all expectations of your spouse reasonable and well communicated. This is a very accurate one. Having unspoken expectations not being met leads to resentment. Tell your partner what you want. My wife died 5 years ago, and she was everything to me. She was my very best friend. I miss her so much I still throw up when I think about her death. I say that to say this: enjoy your spouse. Whatever it takes for you to do that. Figure it out and do it. And even more than that, make sure they enjoy you. I'd give my life to see the smile on her face of coming home to a cleaned house and a cooked dinner. I'd give my life to spend an hour talking to her again. Heck, I'd even give my life just to sleep next to her again. Cherish every single moment with them. Please. I'm begging you to do this because the last thing you want to regret is not kissing them enough, or not laughing with them enough, or not holding their hand enough, or not just being near them enough. Love that person. Do it for your spouse because there are people out there who can't do it for theirs anymore. My heart just fell out my butt. That was beautiful. I'm so sorry for your loss. Hollywood lies. It won't always be easy or be fun or always feel so desperately in love that you can't breathe. Sometimes you just feel bored or angry or frustrated. It isn't the good times that make a good relationship, but how you work together in the bad times. Romantic love is a fine start, but lasting partnerships are built on stronger stuff, like trust, respect, humility and understanding. I don't mean to sound clinical, because if you can't laugh and have fun you won't last long either, but fun ends when the mortgage is due, or your mother has cancer, or you have to raise a child. Second, any relationship that lasts even 10 years is going to have very different people who want different things at the end of it. There will be renegotiation throughout. Allow your partner to grow and change and communicate your own altered expectations. Finally, there's no one way. What works for some may not work for you. It's your job, both of you, to figure out how you work and what you need. I wish you had mentioned compatibility, a shared approach to cleaning, finances, conflict resolution, communication, goals, cooking and so on is so critical for everyday happiness and health in relationships. 1. Don't joke about divorce, ever. 2. Don't talk bad about your spouse, even in private. My wife and I have been married for 10 incredibly happy years. We also own our business and work together full time. When we got married, my uncle told us to take the word divorce out of our vocabulary. Don't use it as a joke, even if you're 100% kidding. It shouldn't be a thought in your mind. Also, my wife has been an amazing example to me at the power of speaking well about your spouse to others. Knowing that she treats me so respectfully, even to her girlfriends, pushes me to do the same for her. Communication. Sharing every single funny thing you come across with each other. Have inside jokes. But another big one is this. Always default to being on each other's side in outside situations. You can argue things out later in private. But in the moment, if there's a situation involving other people, remain on each other's side. If you can't trust your significant other's basic judgment enough to be able to say you can be on their side no matter what, maybe you're not with the right person. As much as we love each other and spend a heck of a lot of time together, sometimes having your own space and a bit of time alone is nice, and that there is nothing wrong with thinking that. Don't compare your marriage to others. Do what works for you. Separate bedrooms, separate vacations, attached at the hip, no kids, the list goes on. Do what works best for you and your so. Same advice on parenting. I'm competitive by nature, so I compare everything, but I'm so much happier when I don't. I have to consciously remind myself, but this is great advice. Just gotta do you. Fight fair. You're going to have fights, so learn how to fight in a way that doesn't damage your relationship. Only bring up the problem at hand. Don't mention the thing that happened 3 weeks ago that pissed you off. Stay on topic. Try to think of every fight as you and your partner against the problem, not you against your partner. Say sorry afterwards. Let your partner know you still love and respect them. The next day, once you are both calmer, discuss solutions to the problem so it can be resolved. Don't avoid conflict. Communicate before it simmers and boils over and can't be fixed. That's true for lots of other things, obviously. Open your dang mouth and talk it out. It's not like you can just go home if you don't like something. You have to live with it. kindness in all things. If you find yourself saying things that you know will absolutely ruin your soul, or being told things that are meant to make you feel like crap, that is a toxic relationship. Moving in together doesn't fix anything. It just brings any of the nasty stuff into more immediate focus. You and your so came from different families. It's going to take some time to figure out how you want to do things. Give it time and patience. Plus, you have to talk about it if you want to get it all worked out. Communication is the key. Marriage isn't about having a relationship without problems. It's about having a relationship that solves problems effectively. Always assume good intent. Your spouse is your partner, your teammate, not your enemy. If something was said or done that offended you, it wasn't a purposeful or malicious act. He didn't mean to hurt your feelings. She didn't mean to bruise your ego. When people perceive they're being attacked, they respond by beating the war drums and preparing for battle. Don't do that. Cease fire. It's easier to resolve conflict and de-escalate brewing disagreements when each dispute is viewed through a lens of good intent. Your partner loves you and would never intentionally tear you down. Keep that at the forefront of each interaction. Here are the top 7 generic answers to this question every time it's asked. 1. Communicate. Talk to each other about everything and be open. 2. Make an effort to date even when you're old and wrinkly. 3. Fiscal responsibility. It's okay to have separate bank accounts. 4. Talk through important choices like starting a family before moving into marriage. 5. Trust each other because suspicion is a seed for a failed relationship. 6. Don't fight to win. You're both on the same side. 6. Check if they were previously a firefighter or they may have to step in to lend a hand during 9/11. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Remember your team. Words are important. No matter how expressive you believe your actions to be kind. People cannot read minds. Love doesn't mean your partner understands you perfectly or can foresee all your wishes. Tell your partner how you feel, explain your motives, talk about your worldview. Tell him what annoys you or what you like to do differently. Talking and explaining is almost always the right choice. Don't fall into the romantic trap that your partner should know by heart why you are moody or sad, and if he doesn't love you. That's BS. Your partner is just confused, but wants to help. No one is happily married 100% of the time. We go through periods of happiness and discontent. The only way to stay married multiple years, just celebrated number 14, is to remember why you love your so in the bad, and build on this in the good. Unless your so is a cheater, frick that. It takes a special person to forgive that, but most people never forget. Every time they're late, every time they adjust themselves when answering a text or email where you can't see, every time you see them looking towards someone you know is their type. It rips that scab off and scars the wound until you realize you'll never forget it. So how can you truly, completely forgive them and move on? Thankfully I'm not speaking from personal experience. A sibling went through this. We approached our union as being an unbreakable team. Both our parents celebrated 50 years of marriage. Divorce is not an option. We both know no matter what we can walk through it and come out together. Met and married within 10 weeks. Married nearly 24 years. The unbreakable team concept is what I recommend. As cheesy as it seems, learning and discussing your love languages can be a big help. Knowing my husband is more verbal helps me remember to actually say the important things often and gives more value to the things he says to me. Realizing I prefer acts of service helped me better communicate my needs. Like most things, I'm sure this isn't one size fits all, but it's a good starting point. Physical contact is something that has really helped my husband and I. We are always touching, whether it's his hand on my knee while driving in the car or holding hands in a restaurant. We are constantly hugging and snuggling up to each other on the couch. I've found that this is our love language, and it helps us better communicate and stay connected. I've found that when life gets too busy and we aren't doing those sorts of things is when we start to drift apart and feel distant. That's when we have to slow our life down a bit and reconnect. I believe this is one reason why we feel so in love all the time, never fighting or arguing, always just happy to be in each other's presence all the time. Work on your marriage always. Don't wait for a rough patch to start communicating. Also, have regular dates. even if it's on Tuesday afternoons to the gym together. When you disagree, ask your spouse why they feel that way. Listen calmly to each other's reasons. Don't just demand your way. If you still can't agree, default to the one who's most affected by the decision. Once the decision is made, let it go. Marriage is not a competition. You're supposed to be a team, not opponents. If you find yourself arguing over trivialities like whose TV show to watch or whose turn it is to do the dishes, ask yourself if it's really important enough to fight over, and why. Hint: if you think it is, there's a deeper issue that needs resolving. See a marriage counselor. Housework is not worth fighting over. Find an inexpensive cleaner on Craigslist and spend a few bucks to keep the peace. It's a lot cheaper than you think, and it will teach you how to keep things tidy. Source: married 3 years, never had an argument, still adore each other. If and when you decide to move in together permanently, don't let it be one of you moving into the other's place. Find an entirely new place. Even after having kids, keep your partner as your number one priority. I can't tell you how many friends we know that have separated after having a kid because the kid became the number one thing in their lives and they neglected each other. There's no right or wrong way to be married as long as you two are happy with the arrangement. Your marriage doesn't have to look like anyone else's. As a small example, I'm proud to call myself a feminist, and my husband does maybe one load of his own laundry a year and I do the rest. Same with other daily household chores, too. He does my half of other things and it works well for us. The important thing is that you agree on how you live your lives together and that it works for you, whether it's a big issue or a little one. You don't have to be on top of each other all the time. You don't have to share all your hobbies together, and even the ones you do share you don't have to do with each other every time you do them. Have space for yourselves. When you're married, you do so much of life as a tight pair that you need to find time and ways to be alone sometimes. That said, don't take it too far. Find time for yourself. Don't take all time for yourself. Compromise, communication, and hard work is what I find to be the key to a successful relationship, or at least my successful relationship. Me and my wife have been married for several years and have gone through a lot of struggles together, and without those things we would never have made it work. Love doesn't always feel romantic, but it should always feel like that old you hang up no you hang up game, except that you're both looking out for the other person and trying to do what's best for them. Find someone who will put your well-being and happiness first, and then you commit to putting their well-being and happiness first, and have a lovely lifelong game of unselfish, generous love. P.S. Making this actually work takes practice, effort, communication, and sometimes therapy. Be respectful and polite. You'll be amazed at the improvement in your relationship when you treat your partner at least as courteously as you would a stranger. There are a number of things that have been mentioned which are important, but I would say that one should always show appreciation for the other even when upset. You don't have to get married. I don't think anybody who gets married because they think they have to ends up happy. If you're going to get married, make sure it's because you both want to and that you both like each other, for realsies. Pick your battles. Dispute is unavoidable. Defer on any topic that's not really important to you so that you can hold your ground when it really matters without incurring resentment. Ignore the fact that you're married. It literally means nothing. Being married doesn't mean your wife takes over your life, or that you have to buy a house, or that you have to have children, or any of that. It just means that you're going to be doing your taxes together from now on. Been with my wife for 8 years, married for 2. Nothing changed, and I knew nothing would change. Regarding the dynamics of our relationship, people themselves change all the time. It's been great. We just ignore family when they ask about kids. Eventually they'll stop asking. Being married is not an excuse or a reason to be a certain way or do anything at all. Nothing about your relationship should change after marriage, and if it did, I'd personally be worried about that. Never badmouth your spouse. Don't do it to your friends, and certainly don't do it to your family. The two of you are a team, and your partner needs to know that you have his or her back. I'm seeing a lot of great advice on here. I'm going to add a big one. Have a lot of sex. Never stop having a lot of sex. Even when you're tired. Even when you're feeling sick of each other. even when the kids are wearing you out, especially when the kids are wearing you out. Schedule it if you have to. Without physical intimacy you start to feel like roommates. It's easier to resent a roommate than someone you get naked with. Another thing, it helps to have a relationship with someone of a similar libido level. It's not everything, but it's something. Be humble. There's nothing to gain from winning an argument. Be respectful. Good manners go a long way. Also, honestly, if at all possible, separate bathrooms. Marry an engineer. We are both very logical and almost never fight. We always assume each other has the best intentions even if it comes off wrong sometime. Don't be petty and hold stupid grudges. I've been married 21 years. I hope I can explain in text what I tell other people. Here goes. A lot of marriages end because you view your partner with eyes that see them as they were when you married them. When the reality doesn't match the internal view you have of that partner, that's when you have problems. Everyone changes. My wife and I found that it's okay to take a look at your partner and really see them as they are now, and decide if the person they are now is still what you want in a partner. Sometimes, the answer might be no, and that's okay, even if it's incredibly difficult. I've heard from many people who are divorced or getting divorced say she isn't the person I married. Well, no crap. They've got years more experience behind them. They simply can't be the same, and neither are you. For that matter, reevaluating who you are and who they are has kept my wife and I from having fights. We do argue, but who doesn't? That fester, and at the same time realizing that we're more suited for each other now than we were when we met in 1995. I hope that makes sense even if it's not terribly helpful. Make sure to say I love you every chance you get. Every time you think about it, it means a lot more to her than you realize, even if you think you're being annoying. Also, never feel afraid to flirt. Tickle fights, cuddling, kissing. That's what keeps the flame alive. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.